Hello, everyone. Today we have Zach, my co-founder of Someta, here joining us today on this episode of. We haven't came up with with a name yet, but this is what we're just doing right now. And so today we are going to take a bit of time just to get to know Zach and our vision for our company, why we decided to build it, what we're trying to do, what's our mission, and what we're trying to accomplish. So we are going to just keep it a little bit free form and just ask questions as they come and thoughts as they come as well. So feel free to share whatever comes to mind for you as well. And so let's get started. Why don't we just take a moment and introduce ourselves? Maybe we can start with you, Zach.
Yeah, so I'm Zach. I am co-founder and COO of Someta. Right now, we're kind of in the middle of, yeah, we are primarily based around AI tutoring, and so the idea is that we can take AI, frame it in a responsible way, and then really give that to students in a way that is hopefully, useful to them. I take care of a lot of different things in terms of like running the operations of the company. Right now, I'm in charge of the product, and we have some pretty cool stuff lined up. I do have a background in education. So I was teaching for 8 years before this. Started off as a middle school science teacher and kind of fell into teaching, actually. I started off originally just like I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I was actually doing like international student ministry work. And then eventually, like I graduated and I had like a bachelor's just sitting there. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And so my parents suggested that I go into teaching because at the time they said I was a patient person, but I don't know where they got that from. But yeah, turns out I loved teaching and loved interacting with students, but I really felt like I could make a difference. And so I was going through that. And then, yeah, kind of reached a point of really just, yeah, like kind of like there's this thing in teaching where it's like it takes you like 3 years to like get to understand the curriculum, and then you get like bored. And I'm one of those people where it's like I don't know if boredom is congruent. The I would almost have like a life crisis where it was like, what am I doing? Like, I know that I can impact these kids. I know that I'm like doing really good work. I know all these kids really love me, the way that I teach the classroom, the way that I treat them with respect and care and love. But like, I always thought that there was something more out there for me. And so I actually had an opportunity. It was really cool. I was able to help start a school, a charter school in Placentia, Yorba Linda, Unified School District, the Orange County School of Computer Science. Now, this was, there's a lot of controversy around that school and how it started and a bunch of stuff. But at the time, the whole goal and the dream of the school was to really change kids' perspectives on like themselves and also give them the skills to be able to like make a difference in the world from like a technical sense. And so our old superintendent, he saw that AI was coming, and so he was one of those advocates for us as a district to like really like, hey, like we need to really embrace this and like not fall behind because this is coming. And so, but that actually isn't what really got me so excited about this, but it was just like we adopted a new grading system. It's called mastery based learning. Well, it's not really new. It's been around, but we adopted it, tested it out. And so there were a lot of cutting edge things that we were doing, but just the implementation and the support wasn't there. And so we ended up, it ended up not working out. Now, the other cool thing though about that process was I was able to actually go into my old principal. Shout out to Beth.
Woo-hoo.
I actually had an opportunity to kind of just pick what I wanted to teach. And I actually have a wide history of like, well, not wide, but like, I have a history around investing. And so that journey actually put me on a path of like really understanding like, okay, like how does business work? And really ultimately the core question, and this is what and I think like ethical business does, is that like it's really about like how do you create value for other people, and how do you leverage that, and how do you like, in a lot of cases, especially, this is a buzzword, how do you scale that and bring this to many people? That was something that I became enamored with. And so I actually was teaching a class called Entrepreneurship and Product Design, because we had the innovation lab. Shout out to my old team over there. Yeah, it was just, yeah, like one of the components is that like there was engineering, computer science. At the time we had video production, we had art. And it was the question that I had in my mind was like, yeah, you can have these skills, but I really want some of these kids to have the heart of an entrepreneur, because some of them might be like me, where it's like, how do I go out there and take what I learned and like make value for other people? And so like that's kind of like, so I was teaching entrepreneurship for a year, and then met UJ, and kind of the rest is history, because I really had to ask myself the question of like, I can impact the people, in my classroom, about like, 500 students. Was it that many? It might have been. We rotated. So I had a
Lots of
lot of
kids.
students. Yeah, but it's like, okay, like I can impact 500 students, and like not to, boast or anything. It was just like, I felt like maybe I can impact people on a greater scale. Maybe not just, the 200 kids that I see, or the 500 kids that I see on campus. Maybe I can do something more. So that's kind of my journey, and what brought me here.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think what I hear from you is that you saw a vision of what could be and being able to, like you said, scale value. And it's so interesting to hear different educators' journeys
Mm,
and what you went through to come to the place where you're at today, starting a company. And it started with that experience of the entrepreneurship class
mm,
where you realized that maybe you were teaching that class because you were passionate. Not maybe, I think you were passionate about
yeah.
entrepreneurship. There was something in you. And I guess for our personal faiths is that God put that in you,
Hmm.
right? To
Absolutely.
as a calling and as a gift. And it was something that was just wanting to get out and being expressed
Mm.
potentially. But do you see it that way?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? Like when we talk about like God's calling, and like, yeah, I mean, like I grew up, just for the audience, I grew up, going to church pretty much my whole life. And so the odd thing about like thinking the way that I have been thinking, and relating that to like kind of this journey that I'm on, is like there are usually like certain perspectives, or like I guess like almost like rigid ways of thinking about like, hey, like this is how things are supposed to be. And coming from a church setting, right? Like if you're told, hey, this is how things are supposed to be, and obviously God designs things to be a certain way, right? Like there are certain boundaries that we need to stay within, of course, but like I think we might take that a little too far and ascribe this to like, okay, what are you going to do with your career path, or like, the lifestyle that you're going to live? Like it needs to, fit this checklist exactly. It's like, I don't know if that's good theology, right? And the times that was actually rocked by the Lord were when God would like take those checklists and almost like shake them up and say like, hey,
Mm,
I don't need this checklist to move in you. I don't need this checklist for me to say that I love you. And like the gifts that I've given you, like it doesn't, you like I realize that I do this, especially as I've grown up, and I do this a lot less, but like when I was growing up, like I would do my best to like fit myself into a certain archetype of person, right? Like
mm,
it's so funny. I used to, back when I was doing college ministry with two of my really good friends, they were entrepreneurial as well. And so we were like doing a lot of church ministry. We did a lot of stuff with the college ministry. They would, we would define ourselves as like certain roles. So like, my friend Alex would be the prophet, and then, I would be the priest. I'd be like with the people, and then like my friend Ko, he would be like the king. He'd be the one that implements things. And it's just like, I look back on that and it's like, I can see what I was attempting to do, but it was also like the Lord saying, I gave you the power of Christ. Why do you have to like put yourself in a box? Christ is all three of those things. And so I'm not saying that like, like extend myself and like, like speak in ways that like I feel like the Lord is saying, or like try to like grow that gift. I'm not saying that like the Lord won't grow that gift, but it's just like, I think what I'm trying to say is that like, I think whenever I would put my own talents in a box, that's when God would like shake that up and say like, you're meant for so much more. And that's actually what I feel like what happened with teaching and this whole experience is like, I thought that like, funny story, before going into teaching at Orange County School, OCSCS, before it was like going to convert into a charter, I told Beth Fisher, my old principal, I told her when I signed up, I told her, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna sit back and like teach for the next 20 years and just like rot away. Just like, because I was so burned out from the system, I was just like, I didn't want to care anymore, right? I didn't want to care about these kids. I can only control what was in my classroom. And, we can get into a whole topic about school systems and everything. I have tons of opinions about that. But that whole experience was like, that's what I wanted to relegate myself to. I wanted to like just be a teacher, right? I just wanted to be ordinary. And God was saying, no, that's not what I have and that's not who I made you to be. And so that's actually part of the reason why, like, sorry to roundabout way of answering that question, but like, that's the big reason why yes, like the Lord has used like my teaching skill and like my passion for entrepreneurship and business. But I'm realizing day by day that like the only person that's really putting hampers on myself it's not God, it's me. Yeah.
Yeah, as you're sharing, many times we put these boundaries upon ourselves and putting ourselves in a box,
Yeah.
as we often do with God too. And
Yeah.
not only God himself, but what he can do through us. And I'm sure for you, stepping into this process was being able to let go of those potential boxes and these limiting beliefs, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then letting those go then freed you to step into this new role and what you're doing now. And I think you also mentioned that like ordinary teaching is ordinary. And I think I'm currently a teacher. And I think
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think what you mean by that is that God has called you to do something different. Something different about there's a teacher can be very happy with the route that they're going 40
Absolutely.
years, whatever.
Absolutely.
And there's also teachers like you where it's like an edupreneur, entrepreneur mixed together.
Right.
And there's something about you and your wiring and the gifting that God has given inside of you that just inevitably, it almost feels you're not living to the design and the creation and his intentional design for you specifically. It almost feels, and I'm sure that itself feels, like you said, rotting away, right? And so I think one of the things that maybe I want to call out is that this thing that we're doing at Someta is not just to make money. It's not just to start a business, though it was always our dream to do that. But it really is in alignment with the way that we believe that God designed us.
Yeah.
And I just resonating with you too. Like I have always tried to start businesses. None of them successful.
Yeah.
And none of them stuck. But that's just how I was wired. When some people might enjoy, I don't know, they might enjoy playing soccer or something, or that's like their hobby that they really just feel like God has called them to. For me, I feel like God has called me to, or God has designed me in a very entrepreneurial way.
Mm,
And so Meta isn't just some project that we're
yeah.
doing. It really is, you left your entire job for this,
Yeah.
right? It's not like a side thing for you. This
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
it's just your main thing for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's so good. And again, like, just want to emphasize, thanks so much for pointing out. I know that, like, taken out of the context, I tend to sound very,
Teachers of Broadway for 40
yeah,
years, they
yeah.
suck. No.
I'm so sorry, dude. Like, I will always say this. Like, I will never speak poorly to about a teacher, at least in the context of, like, like what we do together, like, especially, like when we're in, when we're in the school year, it's like it's a battlefield, right? And so we're all together. It doesn't matter what the kids think of the teacher. Like, I do my best to, like, uphold them and just, like, say, like, hey, like, this is, like, regardless of how you feel about it, like, this is someone that's sacrificing themselves for you, and to respect that and to honor that. That's a big deal to me. I think also, to that point, it's like, what we're doing is, like, not for everyone, right? And so it's like, this is the best way that I could describe it is I would constantly go and say, like, that was actually why I had that conversation with Beth, where it was just like, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna be a good teacher and, like, just follow along for the next 20 years. Because to me, I think there are people who are uniquely gifted to do that, right? Like, I think about, like, countless actually, I've worked at a lot of schools, and, there's usually, like, that grandpa of the school, right?
The
Like,
grandpa of the school.
yeah, like, there's usually that, like, one or two grandpa, grandma of the school, where they're just like, or even, like, the father figure of the school, where they have been there for really, really long time, probably.
Century. I'm just kidding.
But, you know what I'm talking about? Like, those
Yeah.
those people that, like, that, like, if the school had, like, a monument, their name would be plastered in stone on there. They just have, like, this legacy there. Like, for the first school that I taught at, they're called the Diogi. So it was like Jack and Rich Junio and Sue Diogi. Like, they were like the ones that were just like, if anyone had any problems, you go to them, right? Because they were the ones that honored the school culture, right? They were the ones that created the school culture, and they were there. I think of, like, this past school that I was at. His name's Phil Seitz, and so, like, literally, you know, his students' kids are coming in, like, oh, I have Mr. Seitz. Oh my gosh, he's so mean, But he's one of the best teachers I've ever seen, right? Like, and so, like, this persistent setting, and, like, almost like principal, like, it's so funny because principals come and go, but, like, it's the teachers, these ones that, like, the grandpas, the fathers, the mothers, the grandmothers of these schools, that really set the culture, right? And just because of how the school's designed. So like those people, and, like, the people that are going to become those, right? Like, I know so many of my colleagues that I know that they're going to become that. And so, like, those people, like, I'm just like, man, like, I wish I could be like you. Like,
Like
in a
me?
sense,
Okay.
like, in a weird way, I wish my desire was just to be in the classroom. There's something special about, like, hey, you've been in the community for 20 plus years, 30 plus years. People know you, and they come back and they visit you. There's something special about that. And unfortunately, I probably, just given my skill set, I don't know if I'll see that, which is okay, right? Like, that's totally okay. But, like, that's their reward, and so, yeah, like, I just want to clarify that, because I know that I come off very strong. But yeah, I think you also mentioned something specifically about talking about calling. Or I don't think you mentioned it specifically about calling, but, like, how what we want to do with Someta, we feel like it's just like a unique divine insight of, like, what the Lord is kind of putting in our hearts. And so, like, you know, I know we're interviewing me, but I know that, once we get to interview you, you're gonna have, like, tons of, I mean, it's gonna be awesome to, like, listen to you and just, like, listen through that. But, like, for me, what that what that piece looks like is like it's really called me to. I've always sat in this weird like intersection of like I know what vision looks like, and I know what good vision looks like. And I like love good vision. And even though I can understand the vision and I can communicate the vision to other people that are like working alongside of me, I can't come up with a vision. And I don't know why. Like it's just like I've done my best, right? Like the early years, early months, early. We're not even a year old. What am I talking about? Like the early months of Someta, I couldn't generate vision, but like I feel like my gifting itself is specifically around like I can understand people's visions and I can communicate that to other people, meaning that I can actually execute on it. Because I think a big part of yeah, like people talk about executing and like people think that like executing is like doing stuff, which is like obviously true, but I think execution is mostly about like being able to understand what an expert does and being able to emulate that in your context. And then like it's just an extension of like, we work with his name's James. He's an amazing engineer. It's about understanding your perspective, like you, the vision caster, and being able to tailor it and refocus it so that it's like, okay, like what does this mean in terms of tangible steps for you to take as a developer, right? And so, yeah, sorry, I kind of
No, all good.
went off.
No, thank you for sharing. I think you as the executor, I think is huge. Being able to take ideas and big concepts and tangibilize them into solid steps to execute on that now you can delegate to others, like such as James. And as you were talking, one of the things that came to mind and why we are doing this is because we want people to know who we are. I think that's a big part of why we are recording this and doing this more or less a podcast. It's because we just want people to know who we are, because we want to be able to build trust with others, show them that we are real people with real feelings
Yeah.
and our own real experiences. And we want people to know who the creators of Someta are, what they stand for. So I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
And as we continue to talk, I'm sure there's more things to unpack and that we can discover our reasons for being on social media more clearly as we move forward. Maybe just one next topic for us to discuss now that we've talked a little bit about you, and I'm sure we'll have you back again in a little bit. And
I interview you next time.
maybe, yeah, we can. Another conversation that I want to jump into a little bit is just your understanding of AI and its role in education, because you've worked pretty closely now with AI for however many years now, and not only in education, so just broadly in education first, and then specifically in math and what you've seen so far in your own experience. So role in education broadly, and then specifically in math education.
So are you talking like for the broad portion, like just like my philosophy of education, or is it just like specifically about like the connection between like what do I see like on broad strokes, like AI and education together, or like what is
You can go into a little bit about your philosophy if you like, if it's going to help paint the broad strokes of the AI's role in education. And if you feel like that would be a good routing, or if you feel like you just want to, without talking about your philosophy, I'm sure your philosophy will come. And so, yeah, it could be part of that conversation.
Yeah. I feel like it's so like we're in such a weird time with AI and education and just like even my own philosophy of education too. Yeah, I think I'll start here. Yeah, I think the biggest reason why that it's so awkward for a lot of us, where we have like, full on school districts. Some of the teachers are like not even not let's not even look at the teacher level, right? Like district level. I've heard people talk about how like some districts are just like they're almost like FOMO. Like they hear like that this other district is using like an AI tool, and so they'll like do their like they will spend no like there's like literally zero a limit to their budget. Like, spend so much money trying to get this AI tool because it's like, hey, it's working for that district. We got to get it for ours, right? There are those districts. They're the ones that are pioneering, right? So like, for example, your school, right? Like you guys are pioneering a lot of the AI happenings. And so like the AI ed tech companies are coming directly to you guys to get your feedback. Like, what do you think about this? Because, they don't know what the landscape looks like. And and then there's the ones that are just like completely running away from it, where it's just like, hey, we're going to ban ChatGPT, the whole domain, any type of LLM or large language model. We're going to just ban them and just like not have it be part of it. And obviously there's in between, you sprinkle in between. I think there's a lot of confusion as to what AI can do. And I actually listened to a podcast. Forgot his first name, but it's Andre Karpathy. Yeah, he's an AI researcher, or he was an AI researcher at OpenAI and Tesla. And I think he has more of a moderate view. And I think when things are usually moderate, you know, things tend not to be as sensationalized as we think. And then, on the flip side, obviously to completely reject it is foolish in my opinion. But he has a moderate view where it's like his thesis is that a lot of people think that AI is this almost like an animal where it has been birthed. And so now it's going to use its evolutionary kind of adaptations to grow and become this almost living organism that is like completely, that's going to, replace a human almost. And he doesn't believe in that like at all. And the reason why isn't because he doesn't think that AI isn't powerful. He doesn't believe that it's going to increase productivity, all these things that, he believes in all those things. I think his thesis is that the almost like the way that the machine learning, the AI has been birthed is totally unrelated to evolutionary, like how animals like adapt and they grow and they learn. It's completely different. And to like kind of synthesize like the reason why he says this is because AI is essentially just using math and probabilities to determine the most correct answer. It's not even like the correct answer. It's like the most likely correct answer here. And so it's called gradual descent. So it'll do these things and it'll go through, this loop of just like trying to understand, and then it'll get feedback on like whether or not it's right or wrong. That's entirely different than like, what humans experience. He uses example and it's really powerful where take like a businesswoman. She goes through 10 years of starting a business and, she has a successful business at the end. We would say that like, oh, wow, like that's a long time. But like if we were to take her and tell her like, hey, make another business that's similar, make it succeed. What she would say is like, okay, yeah, I could probably do this in like a year, maybe even shorter, right? Because she learned, she distilled that information and she knew what things were failures, what things didn't work, and she knew the successes. And somehow her brain was able to digest that and like create this pathway. And so she could optimize it like 10x, right? Like me saying this out loud is like you're looking at me like, oh yeah, like that's totally doable, right? Like we've seen this time and time again. AI would look at that entire 10-year journey and say, okay, to make a successful business takes 10 years. Every single path that went down is the correct path. And therefore you need to include it that entire way, which is like, for lack, Carpathy's words, that's pretty dumb, right? For us to say very clearly wrong. It's to assume that every single checkpoint along that path was correct because we knew that was failures. And so that's kind of where I think a lot of people misunderstand AI, where they think that it is this, it has the same evolutionary tools to learn, and it does. It has the tools to learn, but it does it in a much different way. And the other example he gives is that like humans have really, really terrible memory. For some reason, we're able to see patterns really, really well. And so like we kind of like it's kind of a human feat for someone to have like incredible memory. Computers do it easily, right? They have crazy amounts of memory. And so the way that they process that information is different. And so like I think this is where like on a high level, if I were to like say anything is like I think there is a huge need to reimagine education because I think some people, so there's two sides. I think some people don't understand that AI is just like the internet is going to reshape education as we know it and the role of teachers as we know it. But I think there's another aspect of like I think people are a little too ambitious saying that like this is going to be a replacement for human teachers. And I maybe eventually down the line, math doesn't really change, but then we might get to a point where it's like our whole curriculum of like what we teach these kids hopefully will change, right? Because it's not about the curriculum. And so, yeah, that's kind of like some thoughts just on a broad stroke.
So I would love to dig deeper into the businesswoman idea of go here, but AI can't synthesize it in the way that the human was able to.
Yeah.
I have instincts. I'm like, I have so many questions as to why that is the case. And I
Right.
think that could be a different episode or a
Yeah,
different
and I and,
conversation.
and and to be honest, I don't fully understand it. Like this was just me listening to a podcast, and then I was like attempting to break it down. But anyways, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so the conversation, basically, if I were to synthesize or distill it, would
Mm-hmm.
be that the AI's capabilities is still moderate. That there is this sensational idea of AGI coming soon where that is as intelligent as a human being in all tasks. So
Mm-hmm.
there's this like humans are going to be replaced or that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps there's also people on the other spectrum is like AI sucks, which I'm not sure if people can have that opinion now, given if they try it out. But it's
Right.
either like they see that, yeah, it's capable versus the super sensationalist. And then now there's like the middle ground where you say, hey, it
Mm.
seems like we're gonna need humans for the next decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people have said that next year is going to be the decade or year of agents, but that guy, the guy in the podcast said who
Mm-hmm.
worked for OpenAI, I believe, and
Carpathic,
now,
yeah.
yeah, he says that it's going to be a decade of
Mm-hmm.
agents, which is going
Mm-hmm.
to, yes, that initial growth has been exponential in terms of what it can do. But from here, it's like a logistical function where it eventually tapers off, it seems. And so it's going to take a
Yeah.
little while for it to reach where it needs to go. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the broad educational application, what you're saying is that AI is still going to be a tool for it's going to be a tool for humans to leverage and humans like we talked about the hill, which is
Mm.
humans being in the loop, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what Someta is for, or
Mm.
Someta is
Mm-hmm.
designed with the human being in the center. And yes, we're going to iterate on this most
Yeah.
likely,
Mm-hmm.
and our belief is that we need humans in
Yeah.
the loop in even the tutoring process. Not that
Yeah.
we're going to stick with just tutoring, but in the tutoring process, humans need to be there, whether it's for feedback, whether it's checking stuff, or
Yeah.
whatever that process is.
Yeah.
And we are keeping the human at the center and human in the loop in all our
Mm-hmm.
processes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like the broad educational application. How
Mm.
about just specifically for math? What have you seen?
Yeah, yeah, and just to hit on that point as you were talking, just like some closing thoughts. I think in terms of it's so funny because because now this is my job. I have so many conversations just with tons of different types of people. And so like it is absolutely a spectrum where like some people think it's going to come tomorrow. Some people think that like AI is still flawed, right? And it's not going to be able to do the jobs. And it's so funny because I think I think both are wrong, and this is my own opinion. I think both are wrong.
Mm,
I think I think there is now to the point of like you were talking about human in the loop hill. That's part of the reason why that like I think businesses like us exist is because there is this wide spectrum of misconception about AI of like, what is it actually like? What does it look like in reality? And it's so funny because it's like on one end, it's like, well, AI is unreliable, which I think, like maybe like 80%, I would say on the conservative side, 80% of it gets right. So like that's 20%. That's still like that's unreliable. Yeah, 20% is a lot, right? But then on the other side of it's like, oh yeah, like that 20%, oh, it's only gonna get better. Like on the other side of like, oh, like agents are coming tomorrow. It's like, no, we can't ignore this. And so like this is why like Someta actually exists, and that's why like we're big and passionate about this, is because it's like our kids need to learn how to use AI in its current state right now. And that's our whole point of like, that's why I think we have a market niche, is because I think a lot of parents know, even students. I would say students are way smarter than we give them credit for. They're super smart because a lot of them actually use ChatGPT. I don't think a lot of them even want to cheat using it, because like right now they use it as a cheating tool because it's easy, but like they don't know how to solve a problem. And they put it ChatGPT because it's like, okay, like I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT because it's a nice form for me. They don't Google things anymore. They just ask ChatGPT. And it's like, okay, it gave me the answer, but I still don't know how to do it. And so they reluctantly write the answer down, and then eventually it becomes a habit. So they don't care about cheating anymore. But I think there's a reluctance to like copy down the wrong or the right answer and just not learn it. I think there's a desire to learn it. And so that's why I think we have this opportunity to like help these kids and how to use it responsibly. So sorry, I just wanted to kind of double down on that point. I think in math education, it's so funny because I'm credentialed to teach math, but I'm actually, I, I tell this to people constantly because like you're the math expert, you're the math guru. Like I go to you for understanding. Like okay, like how do we actually like teach this stuff? Because it's like teaching math is really really hard. I am credentialed to teach it, but I'm a science teacher by trade, and so I think that's actually been a huge advantage for us because a lot of the assumptions that math educators have about AI and how it can be used, I don't have any of those assumptions. Like, can't really like boast about that. It's just like, I just don't know. I'm just like, I'm actually in the dark. And so it forces me to actually understand what is the best way for these students to like use these tools in regards to math. Because I'm not efficient, right? Like if I were to give you like a student's work, you could probably grade it immediately. For me, I have to like I literally, it literally takes me like 20 minutes to like grade like eighth grade math problems. It's so bad. 20, maybe more like 5. The pre-calc stuff and the calc stuff, like it takes me a long time to like, what the heck is going on here? And so I have to rely on AI. And it's not like I don't know how to do the math. It's I need to leverage the AI to make my teaching more efficient, because I don't have the opportunity to sit here and study something for an hour so then I can understand it and then I can grade all their stuff. Like I don't have that luxury. And so this is where I think, so there's some pretty cool tools out there. I think some people are already solving this. Grading is a huge pain point for teachers. I think grading is going to, I think it's 80% good at grading, right? So like, but that's you're shaving off 80% off of your actual like workload, right? Like that's really, really good. I think grading's one of those things. I think I think what teachers and educators don't realize is that they kind of like sticking with one model, with one LLM. Like for example, they like using ChatGPT because it's the most popular, and so they'll stick with that. Or like I know that you use Gemini, and so they'll heavily rely on like just that one. Turns out that like I think a lot of teachers will catch on to this eventually. Like once they get the idea, it'll be kind of a no-brainer. But like using the LLMs to check each other, they're really really good at like finding faults of other people's work. And so using that as like a way to like almost like efficiency to create an efficiency loop there, I think educators will eventually kind of begin to realize that. I think also educators, I think educators will also begin to realize that their role, yeah, I think this is where I want to frame it. I think their role is actually going to shift. And we've talked about this where I think a lot of the curriculum can be offboarded to AI. And I think, I mean, like that's what a lot of these textbook companies promise, right? Like they promise that, hey, our curriculum is so good that like, you can just focus on teaching the kids, right? Like getting that feedback and doing that loop. And turns out a lot of, I guess this is going to be public. So to put it nicely, it's lacking, right? There's a lacking in a lot of different ways. And I'm sure you have much stronger opinions about that than I do. But yeah, I think what teachers, and I think the world, I don't think the world realizes that it's not the curriculum we need to adapt. It's the feedback that we get from the student. That's what needs to be adapted. That's the most important thing. And I think that's the golden key to education. It's not we're creating a new curriculum with AI or we're creating like an adaptive curriculum with AI. Like like if I actually like kind of posted some content this morning. It was just like if I give two kids the same problem, and let's just say they're like two different like levels. One of them is just gonna answer it in like maybe 30 seconds. The other kid they're gonna take maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. They're gonna hopefully ask me for help. And then I'm gonna have to get that feedback and like go through a whole teaching loop with them. And so it's the same curriculum. Would we say it's a failed curriculum? Probably not, because one of the kids was able to solve it in 30 seconds. What about this other kid? That's where I think that's where we really need to focus our attention is how do we become better teachers after they get the curriculum? Spend less time like up in front of the class teaching the actual stuff and like hopefully spend more time like being in personalized settings with these kids because that's what they really need.
Yeah. So I want to go back a little bit in your previous conversation before the math education piece where you shared about the niche that we are serving is because of the 20% that AI is imperfect, which is a very, I think, powerful insight. Is that I think that there is going to be not a, I don't know how massive or big the market would be. Not that this podcast is about the markets, but it's very interesting that you would say that the 20% or maybe the gradual decrease of that percentage, which might take a decade, who knows, that gradual decrease, that space actually is where businesses can be made. And our business
I love that.
is actually just in that, our business exists because of that imperfection with AI. And because if it was perfect, then by that time that would be a whole different conversation,
Right.
existentially. So I wanted to call that piece out. So that I think that was very insightful, and that was just like a kind of like a huge revelation for me.
Yeah.
And number two is another reason I think why we want to do this podcast is because establishing expertise a little bit. Just hearing you share about AI and just the hours that you probably think every single day just on this topic, especially as it applies to math education and education period. I think you just have insights that I think people will find valuable, especially parents who are kids are struggling with math and they want to use AI or they're hearing about these things, but they just don't know who to listen to or where they get this information from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think this could be a good avenue just for people to find out more about what math and education or math and AI could look like.
Yeah. Totally.
And then thirdly, to the point about feedback. And the curriculum is something that is a little bit less important at this point. But the feedback of what the student generates and then how we can give the kind of feedback that will be beneficial for them to ultimately iterate and improve upon that work. Because one of the things that we do believe in is mastery based, we don't really grade, but mastery based learning, which is this idea of iteration. And if you learn anything, it's a matter of that feedback of I try or I see somebody, or actually something you don't even need to see somebody do it. It's I try it and then somebody gives me feedback just on the next kind of area of growth. And then
Mm.
I try that and then
Hmm.
I get another feedback and then I get a little bit better. And so it's just that loop of getting feedback, trying it again, getting feedback. And then as long
Hmm.
as you keep doing that, you will eventually, I think, achieve mastery. Some kids obviously will get faster than
Yeah.
other kids because of
Yeah.
natural gifting or just the way
Right.
that their brain is wired is
Absolutely.
more conducive to that.
Absolutely.
But that iterative process is something that we truly believe in. And so
Mm.
even with our tutoring and what we do is we're not just about just getting the answers. It's
Yeah.
about let's give some kind of feedback of,
Yeah.
well, I know we pivoted from that and we could
Sure.
talk more
Sure.
about that,
Sure.
but
Sure.
that's
We might pivot
our,
back into it.
yeah, we might pivot back into it. We pivot all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, what we believe in. It's just the
Mm.
power of feedback.
Mm. Hmm.
So I know that we probably, I bet it's been like 51 minutes. So
Oh my
50.
gosh. I mean, dude, I can
I know we
talk about.
probably could go
Oh my gosh.
forever,
Oh
but
my
any
gosh.
last thoughts before we end?
Yeah, just in regards to that feedback piece, I think it's really really important. It's so funny and like there's just because I don't think you know this because I'm more boots on the ground. It's really funny because as you're talking, I think yeah, I think this is true. I think mastery based grading in the public school setting is promotes potentially. I mean, I guess it depends on the class size, but like I would say that like it's really really difficult. I would just say it like this. Yeah, it's really really difficult to do without it. To your point
Mm.
exactly, because the iterative process that requires the teacher to give you their attention for multiple times, and even though they're probably small, it's multiple times. And most teachers don't give attention multiple times. It's just once and then done because they're constrained by time, right? And so I think I think that it's really interesting that you put it like that because I'm actually seeing that process firsthand. A lot of our students, we kind of market ourselves as like, well, we don't we just got in some data actually, where it's like these students have been like close to failing their tests and or they're getting not what they want, right? Like so C, D area. And then after the first test that they use Someta, they actually see that they don't jump up to like an A. Like we don't promise like, oh, you're gonna get an A on your test. But they go from, the D to a high C. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And they feel like, oh man. But you know what happens next? They improve. Their next test, high B. He just texted me, he got 100% on his last test.
Wow.
And he started off the year getting D's on his tests or on his tests. And so like that to me is like it's just like an interesting revelation that I'm like hearing that like you're kind of reflecting back to me is that what I realize about learning, and all educators know this, and all educators will put their stake in the ground and say like this is how education works, even though that's not how the system is, where it's like it's an iterative process, and the kids that are the most successful are the ones that do that iterative process themselves. That's it. Like the smartest kids in the class, what I tell my students is smartest kids in the class aren't the ones that are actually the smartest. They're the ones that like ask the most questions and they go through this iterative loop. And so what's interesting is that a lot of these kids that come into our program, they come to us because they don't have the skill of doing that iterative loop on their own. And using Someta, it helps them develop that pattern of iterative process. And so eventually, a lot of these kids, they might use Someta like for maybe like one or two questions, per week. But besides that, like their metacognition has already changed. The way that they approach math has already changed. And that's because of the math and the practice. Or sorry, it's because of Someta and the practice. So that's, just something that like, yeah, I just wanted to share with you because I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, my mind is just getting blown. So
Yeah. Thank
yeah,
you for sharing.
yeah.
Yeah. So Meta's pretty great. We're pretty great. We believe in feedback and iteration.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's to the core what I believe as an educator, which is feedback is extremely important. And that iterative process for students. It gets so sad sometimes when I see when a grade is final for a test. It's just like that.
Mm.
That's not how learning works. Okay, let's think about a dancer. Dancing is very similar in the sense of mastery with math as well. If you fail to do a move one time and the teacher says F and you just move on, I do agree with you because of the time constraints and because there's only one teacher, that
Yeah.
feedback was impossible, but now it is.
Mm.
And truly, the amount of what is that called? Differentiation.
Mm.
The level of differentiation that now has been unlocked by AI is absolutely incredible. It's been unlocked now. Before, we've all talked about differentiation, but the true level of differentiation that we've been talking about is now here. Actually, not true because we still have that 20% was imperfect. But
Right.
that level of differentiation, man, it's getting there. And basically, what I'm trying to say is that we're awesome. Someta Academy is awesome.
To even paint color to like your example, it's like it would be absolutely foolish for a dance teacher to say like, hey, you failed. And like know that like that kid has, because a lot of these kids, right, like they show up every day, they practice, and they sit there and they're there every day. Some of them aren't, but like a lot of them are. And then come performance, it's like they mess up, right? And for the dance teacher to fail them, it's like after they saw this track record of like they showed up and they did their best, it doesn't feel right. And I think that's what happens, right? Like obviously, you know, it's hard to quantify how much they actually showed up and practiced, but like a lot of these kids, when they come onto a test, yes, some of them might not feel prepared. Some of them feel prepared, and they still don't do well. And so it's just, that's really defeating. And so this is where it's like the differentiation, right? What you're talking about is like adapting the instruction based on their level. Like that kid might have been practicing, but they were practicing the wrong stuff. And the teacher had no clue that like, hey, if you just a little bit of this stuff, that's also what I see with a lot of our students. If you just cleaned up a little bit of this stuff, if you just watch this stuff, you can actually like an A is 100% is like right there. It's just these really small, these little minute things, these little minute details that like I get to see because they use the app and everything and we can adapt it. But yeah, I think that's another big thing. Like some of these kids are actually so close to becoming 100% students. Like a lot of these kids actually, and then they think it's their fault when they fall short.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. In terms of kids being able to being given chances. And like that example of the dancing teacher, after the kid, let's just say in the performance botches it, is not a failure. It's whatever
Yes.
happened is happened. It's now from there, okay? Now let's reflect. Like what was obviously the performance versus the practice is going to be different because
Yes.
there's a lot of people watching you.
Yes.
Test is very different from just practicing in class. A lot of it's very pressure, which I have also my own philosophies on tests, but then it's when you let's just say fail, it's like, hey, what a great opportunity now to use this experience for you to now take the next step into growing into a better dancer. That's like it shouldn't be F and now you're done. It's okay, you might have not performed as nearly as you wish you would.
Yeah.
But that's great because now we know a base mark. And then now let's set another goal for you to now improve. That's how learning is. It shouldn't be like you suck, you're ashamed. A lot of our Korean parents who have instilled that deeply within our souls, being motivated by shame. But
I mean, I don't, to on the record, I don't think it's just Korean parents.
yeah,
But,
I'm sure it's the Chinese and the Taiwanese.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think this is a pretty good episode for today. I'm sure there'll be more to come. And thank you everybody for watching.
This was fun.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah,
Didn't think I was having so much fun.
yeah. All right.
Do you have anything else or like?
No, just that's it for today.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, if you want to check out our app, it's academy.someta.app. That's where we have everything. Basically, shameless plug. It's just like think about, myself and Jay. Just imagine that your kid gets to learn from us. And so like that's essentially what we've done is that first it was Jay's brain that we put in, and then I sprinkled a little bit of my own flavor in there. But yeah, like it's if you like what we're doing, if you think that like you like our philosophy and everything, like really like come join us, right? Like come join us. Your kid's not a failure. Your kid's not bad at math. Your kid might not like math. That's a different story. But, I am becoming a firm believer that like I'm having even greater conviction that like your kid is just not bad at math. Like or sorry, your kid is not a failure. And I really do think that we can really help out you and your kid get to where you want to be.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Sign with us. And yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.